Okay, we're going live. Here we go. All right, we're live. We're back. Shop Class Podcast. I want to add, we're going to break this into chapters. So I know there's a long video, but you can actually look at the chapters once we post them up. All right, tonight we got a very special guest, Brittney Carbone. Brittney, how you doing? Welcome.
Hi, great to be here.
Okay, so Brittney's coming to us from the Boston area. She is a epoxy resin artist, and we met her at Maker Camp. We're lucky to have her. Thanks for jumping on. We got our regulars. We got Matt Bloomquist in the house, all the way from Taylorville, Illinois. How you doing, Matt? Still muted. That's all right. We'll come around to you. We got Nick from upstate New York, shop teacher. Yep. Duke from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania.
Yep. What's going on?
All right. Middle school shop teacher extraordinaire. And we got Dave Bauer. Where's Dave Bauer from? I forgot.
Albany area.
I'm from upstate New York too, near Albany. Yeah.
Perfect. And print presses and stuff from Maker Camp. This is like a Maker Camp reunion right here. Except Matt wasn't there, but he'll be there some other time soon.
Yeah, next time.
Yes. Okay, so we start with the first question we ask every guest. Did you have shop class growing up?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about it. What, like, was it in high school? Was it middle school? What'd you do?
So I think I was at the phase where we got it in middle school, and then something happened with the education. And they were like, why don't we do this with computers instead and do tech or something like that? So middle school, I remember having shop class, but that was, I think, about as far as it went.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. I had shop class in middle school, and then we were just on computers ever since. Did you do like graphics? Is that what you did?
I gotta tell you, the only thing I remember making was some sort of little race car, and we put something in it to make it like go off. Could I tell you what it is? No.
CO2 cars.
Huh?
The CO2 cars.
Yes, that must have been it. I remember I made these a gradient of like from like yellow to red flames on the side. Like that was my thing. But one thing I remembered is that like I was scared to cut it, but the teacher cut everything. So it was kind of a hands off. I don't know how shop class is in middle school now, but yeah.
Yeah, we do like the same cars, but instead of using the band saws like we used to, we just put coping saws in their hands now, and it makes it a little bit safer. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you put CO2, it's the same thing that's in soda. Like when you shake a soda bottle up and then like slam it on the ground and it shoots, or you puncture a hole in it and it fizzes. Same type of stuff.
Yeah, so it's funny because this is so popular. This is like everywhere.
A lot of it's like design. You teaching design principles. You teach like the engineering design process, aerodynamics, transportation.
Totally. So you were kind of disappointed, I'm sure, that they got rid of shop class. Did they have a really good shop class in the high school before they got rid of it?
I honestly can't speak to what the classes were like. However, my sophomore year of college, obviously in art school, you're exposed to everything, but I took a metal and wood fabrication class with bronze casting. So last time I touched any type of machinery to cut wood was middle school. Actually, I didn't actually use a machine, so definitely afraid getting a grade for something. But yeah.
What now? Okay, so you went to school so you focused on artwork, and then that took you on your path to college.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't immediately think about going into art school. It was actually my parents that encouraged me, surprisingly.
Oh yeah, that's usually not what parents do.
Right. I think I've just always done it. And so like you should go for that. But it was for graphic design. It had to be graphic design because that's a career.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did like Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator.
Well, plot twist, I didn't actually graduate with a graphic design major. I went in as one, decided I didn't want to use computers. I was like told by my teachers, you should be a fine arts major. So, went into painting, two-dimensional studies. I think or it might have been art ed first, but I ended up double majoring, art ed, painting, two-dimensional studies. So.
Okay. And then when did you catch the, when did you get into epoxy resin?
So that was like late 2019, early 2020.
Okay.
So I recently finished, at that time, I recently finished my master's, and it was an arts-based research project. And it actually, without getting too much into it, it kind of closed a chapter, I guess you could say, even of my artistic life. And I wanted to start making more work of my own, but I wanted to do something I haven't done before because I am stubborn and I probably wouldn't stick with it because I'm bored or whatever. So I tried teaching myself epoxy, and it's the most challenging, meticulous, difficult material I think I've ever worked with, and I still feel that way.
Wait, so let's back up. So wait, let's hear more about this college, travels, because I went to design school and there's a lot of twists and turns there. So you went in as fine art, and then you got into this metal crafting class, and how was that?
So as a sophomore, you were required to take two-dimensional form classes, three-dimensional form classes. So it was kind of this class I had to take. They wanted you to be exposed to all different art forms your first couple of years to really see, like, where do you want to end up? So bronze casting wasn't it for me, but
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you graduated a fine arts degree?
I had Bachelor in Fine Arts in painting, two-dimensional studies, and an art education bachelor's, and I also got my initial teaching license. So.
Oh, no kidding, really? So you're kind of like an art teacher or a shop teacher.
Yeah.
Did you go into education?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So I've been a middle school art teacher for about almost 10 years now.
Oh, I forgot. That's also what you do.
Yeah.
That's okay. No kidding. Wow. No kidding. And are you enjoying it?
Yeah. I love teaching kids, and I love working with them. I think the public school structure is definitely challenging. And I think, after COVID, it's caused, I think, a lot of problems with that. But teaching art is a blast, and middle school kids are super enthusiastic. So it's really fun to work with them.
That's cool. Yeah, art teachers are kind of like the shop teacher cousins. Like, you guys are in the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's understood. You're basically shop teachers, and we're
you.
Yeah, we're like, okay. Actually, I don't know why they separated. They really should put those classes like right next door.
I know.
I need some, like, we share materials a lot of the time. My mom was an art teacher for 27 years, and my grandmother was an art teacher. I don't know how, maybe 30 years or something like that. And my mom worked in all kinds of mediums. So in a way, art teacher is kind of like a shop teacher. Why do they separate it? Now that I think about it, I guess because they're not building mechanical things. I don't know.
Honestly, it kind of reminds me of the discussion I have frequently with people who identify as makers, and they're like, "I'm not an artist. I'm a maker," and like, and I don't know if that's somehow tied in. And I try to convince makers, like, you are an artist. You created something from nothing. You use your creativity to make something. Like, granted, you use maybe a more analytical approach, and then I'll go on a tangent about things that happen during the artistic process. Like, nope, that doesn't happen to me.
Oh, I see. Yeah. There's this like category, but there's really no category. Like, even in ceramics, there's some cars that have like ceramic parts on them, and let me just.
But her dad had her all warm.
There we go. Matt, I had to mute you. Sorry. So yeah, there's even car parts that are ceramic, and even though the ceramics class is just scratching the surface, they're not doing it for engineering, but the exposure is pretty good. Right. That's cool. Now, do you do resin with your kids, or you do something else?
No, I don't do resin in school. They do ask though a lot. Is that what we're gonna do? Because I like to show them I'm a working artist myself, and I'm like, no, that's not part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
So I've taught everything from printmaking, ceramics, so sculptural forms like paper mache. We do watercolor painting, acrylic painting. I have taught Photoshop. Lucky kids, middle school learning. It's Elements Editor, so it's pretty basic, user friendly, but like it's pretty great that middle schoolers get exposed to that.
What did you do during COVID? Were you home?
Yeah.
Were you online?
Yep, everyone was home. There were, I'm sure shop teachers are familiar with this, the way like what's expected of on-team teachers or main subject teachers are different than what the specials are expected. So I guess pros and cons. We didn't have required time on with the kids. Like we would have like, I guess you would call it an office hour. And like we would put out stuff at certain times every week. And then we would just do it that way. We'd have like a check-in, but that was it. I somehow came up with some makeshift things to record because at that time I wasn't doing any of that type of content creation. Just so I can demonstrate things to kids. But yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, it was super weird. The one thing that was the most surprising thing was I put my camera on an overhead cam and I was drawing engine components, like how everything goes together. But I put some jazz music on. And the period ended and I forgot, and I looked up and all the kids were still there and they were still drawing. Yeah. And it's because it's kind of like they're enjoying it. They were like, this is great. They're like, you know what I mean? It was kind of like the Bob Ross, like, okay, just make a circle. And then they would make a circle. Okay, put the line over here. And then they would make the line. Yeah. So it's kind of like, what?
That's so special.
That was the one lucky moment out of all of it. You know, it's like, I was like, wow, okay. They kind of dig following along and doing stuff. Like they want to make stuff, you know? So we give you the title, you're honorary shop teacher. I didn't, we didn't take a vote or anything. I'm just going to like give it to you. There you go. So that's pretty cool. Now, what about, do you have any state curriculum, right?
No, I do. We have
Really?
standards. We have, there's Massachusetts standards and national visual arts standards that we have to meet for the kids. So, yeah.
No kidding.
But, yeah. I mean, like the curriculum we have, like it slowly has evolved. But yeah, I guess we can kind of do what we want with it as long as we're hitting those benchmarks.
Yeah. That's funny because I don't think there's any curriculum for the shop teachers. As far as I know. Do you guys have any curriculum that the state asks you to do?
We have, Illinois has state standards, but I couldn't tell you what they say.
Yeah. They're written so vague, it's like you can do anything.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so like above our head, like understanding wise, they just put a bunch of like large educational words on paper and say this is standard, and then there's a bunch of letters and numbers attached to them afterwards too that don't mean anything.
Oh yeah.
And the only reason I knew about them was because I created that 3D modeling class at our school, and I had to go find standards that we could link it to. But for like what I teach, I'm going to say I probably do way more than our standards even put. I don't know. Illinois.
Oh yeah, I mean you're building an entire
know.
house from scratch. I think you're far and above the standards there. I'll show Brittney. I'll put up some of his stuff in a sec. It's pretty cool. They're on like the job site actually, and the kids get bussed over there. It's pretty cool.
That's so sick.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. But anyway, yeah. So this is pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. Is the only standard that I ever saw in New Jersey that I liked was the what happens after sunlight hits the earth and how that gets to a gas tank. So like basically oil production, like dead dinosaurs into the gas tank, and into the car, like the total, all the steps, starting with like sunlight to plant life and the whole thing. I was like, wow, that's a good standard. But everything else is like not really useful. I've never been like, oh yeah, this is a great standard. You know, there's only like one.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty lame. Okay, so you're an art teacher, you're doing your thing, and then how did you where did you come from? Like, how did you all of a sudden become Brittney Carbone, the epoxy resin artist? How did you get to this point?
Well, like I said, I started to teach myself epoxy, and then I just posted some on Instagram, and it was just for myself. Someone reached out to me and asked if I was selling it, and I'm like, sure. And then I just started making more stuff. I'm like, this is what I have. I made these. And then it just kind of snowballed into, do you have an Etsy? Do you have a website? So I made a website. And then I ended up doing some fairs. And then somehow this past February, on a story on Instagram, I stumbled across Workbench Con.
What is it?
Workbench Con. It was an ad on a story on Instagram, and I didn't know anybody going. Like, I didn't know a soul. I didn't even know the maker community, to be honest with you. I knew Total Boat was going to be there, and I use it religiously, so I'm like, that'd be kind of cool to meet them. So I went, and not to sound dramatic, but it was life-changing.
Really?
Yeah. I become sponsored by Total Boat and Black Diamond Pigments, and they're both amazing brands to work with. And I've met so many amazing artists and makers that something that I'm sure all of you you all can relate to, but when you're in your shop or when I'm in my studio, you know, you're alone, right? You're doing it for yourself and you enjoy it. And social media can keep you connected, but it was really cool to meet other people doing similar stuff to me. And now I have somebody who understands what I'm trying to do, or the work I'm trying to do, or the whole social media thing. Not everybody gets it. And it's really great to feel like you belong with a group of people. So and it's just made me want to make more work, bigger work, and maybe change career paths. So
that's awesome. Where was this located?
It's in Atlanta. So it's a little trip.
Wow. How did you find them again? It was through a social post?
Yeah, it was just on a story. It was an ad on a story for Workbench Con, and it said it was for DIY makers, content creators. And I did see a lot of woodworkers, but then I knew Total Boat was going to be there. And I'm like, well, I might not fit in. I don't know. I'm going to take a risk, invest in myself. Why not?
That's great. Yeah, that's kind of like what happened with the maker camp as well. Like, it's unbelievable how many people are there, and everyone got to share ideas and whatnot. That's pretty cool. And what year did you go to that?
This past year. So all this has happened since February.
Wow, this is like it.
Yeah.
That's great. No kidding. Okay, that's pretty cool. So you went down to Atlanta, and what is it, a couple days?
Yeah.
Did you get a booth, or you just went there?
Oh no, I just went there. I
Wow.
took classes. I just like threw the dice. I'm like, yep, let's spend the money. Got points on my card.
Yeah,
this looks fun. And fun fact, do you guys know, I mean, of course not, you don't know. The reason why I went to Maker Camp is because of someone I met at Workbench Con. So Derek from Alden lives like, I don't know, 30 minutes from me, but we met at Workbench Con. He reached out to me the week before Maker Camp. He's like, are you going? I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't know if I don't know if I belong or should. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, Total Boat's going to be. I'm like, all right, fine. So that's why I got my Airbnb 25 minutes down the road, and on a whim.
Oh, you got Justin as well? No kidding. Yeah, we know some of these people.
Oh, I forgot Justin went too. Yeah, I knew Char went. She's all talking about it. Well, then
Yeah.
Jimmy was there. DeResta.
Yep, Totally.
Justin and Chris taught a timber framing.
Wow. To be honest, I didn't even know about this.
What?
I only knew about it because of Char.
I've known about it.
Yeah, I didn't know about it
You
either.
guys- So from someone who's been to both, I mean, this was just my first time.
Yeah, what's the difference? Tell us the differences.
I think I like Workbench Con better. I think.
How dare you?
Do they have a fire pit?
No,
Do they have a fired jackalope?
Come on.
no. I mean, I think I was also cold the whole time.
Yeah, well,
But I mean, it could be because everything was very, very new to me. That might have just been that kind of that imprint and left on me. But both were amazing. Like, so if I say if you enjoyed Maker Camp, you would definitely enjoy Workbench Con. And I think anyone can relate to one that just the people that are going to be there, and then, I mean, classes. I think they're pretty universal.
Wow. And this is this is cool. This is coming up in March.
you were in March.
Yeah, I could probably go to that. That sounds actually pretty cool. I honestly didn't even know about this.
Have any of you gone?
I've thought about it, but not seriously. I don't like to miss school. It's too much to plan to be gone.
It's true.
Well, you just have to miss Thursday, Friday.
I
Yeah,
think
well-
this Ron would be like the equivalent, kind of like the JLC for the builders that you went
Oh,
to,
yeah. JLC was great. That was
where you had a
up
lot of
in Rhode Island.
hands-on. You don't not only have the vendor people there, but you have like a hands-on do things, right? Is that correct, Brittany? I know you may not know what JLC is, but that's what you're doing at that work or the
Yeah, so
Workbench
there's lectures and
Yeah.
it's hands-on classes.
It's more like a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, so it has a combination, but I think the most significant and meaningful part about that is that there's a lot of opportunities for people to network or just connect with other people. I think because you're all in that one space, and it was kind of crazy how I'd be talking to somebody with somebody and I'm on my way to somewhere else, but I think I was stopped 12 times before I got there because I'm just talking to everybody and just how it goes. Cause like maybe the people you meet, they know somebody else. And then just the networking that occurred or just like the connections I build, it's unbelievable.
Wow. And it
What's
looks
the
like
other big conference in Atlanta?
I
I'm
forget.
not sure.
Yeah.
We were talking to
Well, FabTech moves around from
Oh yeah.
Atlanta to
That-
Chicago and Las Vegas, and then what is it? I can't remember.
we were
The
talking to the
acronym.
guy from Mancrafting about it.
Yeah, that was FabTech, and then there's the woodworking one that moves around from Las Vegas to Atlanta as well. AWFS, I think it is. Yeah, a lot of stuff happens in Atlanta as far as conferences and trade shows, and they move different cities each consecutive year. Just like the what do you call it, JLC, and what was the builder show, Matt, that you went to? That was in Florida. Like it was back and forth.
Yeah.
And
And I just found out I'm officially going here in January to the build show. It's out in Vegas this year, so I'm officially going out there again. So, and like you're talking about when you bounce from person to person as you're trying to get from booth to booth, that's how my IBS went for the International Build Show last year. Like you just see somebody or run into somebody, and I literally didn't make like I don't know 100. It seemed like 100 foot even, and I talked to 10 different people. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely felt exhausted and I kind of felt like crap because you're so like on the whole time. But like you look back and you're like, wow, that was incredible.
That's great. That's good to hear. So it's kind of like it's more of a conference in a conference setting like this. It's not like Maker Camp's more like outside. So it's like it's not a controlled environment.
Right.
This is more focused, like you have schedule and right. Is that kind of the gist?
Yeah, so there's a schedule. I mean, you can or can't take you don't have to take classes. Sometimes people will sign up and then maybe they're hanging out in the lobby. Because we had a huge dedicated space like where we would eat and everyone would gather. And then there's this massive lobby out of that. And then downstairs was like a huge bar where everyone went. So it was just, everyone was just in that area. And
it's, am I guessing it's probably not like, okay, so there's something for car people, like the aftermarket industry called SEMA in Vegas. But the problem is it's so big that it's like, it takes days to even cover like one area. It's massive. And
Wow.
so this seems like, I mean, I would guess, what is there, like 1,000 people there, and it's still, you get to meet everyone, right? Or is it too big?
I wouldn't say it's too big. And I wouldn't say I met everybody, but I met a lot of people.
Oh, that was Shar a second ago. We've had her on. She's pretty cool. She does woodwork.
There's a lot that I've noticed already on this video that we're at Maker Camp and have been at Maker Camp since the beginning.
Yeah.
It's the same crowd, just inside.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like you could walk anywhere to get food after, because I think it's like breakfast, lunch is covered. And then I think everyone got their own dinner, but you could walk somewhere, which was really nice. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Oh, they got classes and whatnot. That's pretty wild. So they're doing like woodworking classes in a conference center. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right. This is looking good. There's Total Boat right there. Awesome. That's exciting. What a cool thing. Like the journey is pretty cool. That's awesome. So let's see. Now, are you got anything coming up? Do you have events coming up?
Yeah, I have December 9th and 10th. I'm actually heading to Total Boat with a few pals, and we're going to be doing this holiday maker project. So I'm sure you'll be seeing more of that. So I'm really excited about that happening.
Okay.
And then January 26th, I'm actually having a showcase, which is in Malden. So it's like, actually that's where Derek's from. And I've never done it before. They reached out to me. It's called Raw Artists, and you get to showcase your work. It could be up for sale. It's kind of a nice event, and it's all local artists, and I think it's all different types of artists, which is kind of cool.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. So, all right, yeah, let's go through. I'd like to go through your artwork. Maybe would you like to walk us through kind of some of the processes? Like what really took me when I was looking at your work was how it looks like ocean water. It's like amazing.
Yeah. I think so. Have you guys seen the recent thing I did? It was like a big island.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the large one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's over here. This one?
Yeah, I think it's actually at the top.
Okay.
Of my page. But so I started off with waves, right? And it's a very, very popular type of style. And my background is definitely with mixed media. So I'm always trying to think of like what part of my traditional background can I incorporate with epoxy. And I decided to make these relief paintings, built up the form, and paint the whole thing and make it look like it's an aerial view of some area.
Oh, I see. So first is a piece of wood, and then you actually color the ocean part is your painting.
It's both. Something I've noticed is that if you don't prime the surface, if you're looking for more dark saturated color, you want to paint the surface first. And it also depends. Like I tend to tint with acrylic paint and instead of pigments. Not always. I use them sometimes, but I don't just use pigments because I would consider them like a texture. And sometimes the depth that you want from water is something a little bit more translucent because it can be pretty opaque.
Oh, I see. Okay, I got you. And when you say pigments, that's what you add to the epoxy.
Yeah, so for this particular painting, I only use a little bit on the outside, towards like the I guess deeper part of the ocean. That's because it's much more opaque. And then I tint all of the other epoxy with a little bit of acrylic paint.
Wow. You gotta understand, this is my experience in epoxy. When I fix things, this is as far as it goes.
Small scale.
Yeah, this is just,
But you take two parts, you
Yeah.
mix them together, you
Yeah.
mess with them well, and you get a working time of X amount.
right.
Right.
So, when you're talking about pigments and prepping the surface, I'm just like, wow, I never would have thought to do this. This is awesome. So, and then is the white stuff that you're adding, is that also epoxy?
It's mixed with, yeah, it is mixed with epoxy, but it has some white alcohol ink and this opaque resin pigment. And mixing those two creates the cellular effect once you torch it.
Cellular effect.
Yeah, that foam, that ocean foaminess,
Yeah,
lacing, foam, I don't know,
it's
any of
amazing.
those.
It's incredible. And how many times did you mess this up until you got it right? This is like, I can't imagine this works
A lot.
the first time.
I never felt such rage about artwork in my life because usually it comes pretty easy if I try something. And yeah, I think because I had such a hard time with it, I was like determined. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna figure this out. And the biggest mess up of all the mess ups was using the wrong PPE. I was wearing vinyl gloves, and then, as artists, you get paint on your hands. It's whatever, right? Why not epoxy? Yeah, it's fine. Why don't we take a solvent to try to remove it? And what a solvent does, it makes it more penetrate the skin. So Dum Dum developed contact dermatitis. So that was fun.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What happens? Does your skin react?
Yep.
Oh my.
Unsightly and uncomfortable. And I was deathly afraid to use it again. And the only reason why I got back into it is because that person reached out to me about buying one of my paintings and I needed to fix it. So I needed to work with epoxy again. I'm like, all right, girl, we got this. We can do it.
You
So
got back on the horse.
I bought the right gloves. I did all this research.
Is it
I like
nitrile gloves?
Nitrile gloves. It has to be nitrile gloves, right?
Yeah.
And then I even got sleeves. I was like, nothing's touching me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you seem like a very focused artist. Determination. Would you attribute that to something? Okay. Yeah,
100%.
let's hear it.
So it was, I guess, only recently I started identifying as an artist, which sounds funny, I think now, but I've always been an athlete, and that was like myself. I am an athlete. I can do art, but that was who I was, and I was a huge miler back in the day. Captain, winning states, all these things, right? And then going into college, I got hurt, and I couldn't run anymore. So I was actually very grateful to have art. I just kind of poured my whole self into it. And I do miss that competitiveness of competing. But the funny part is when you run, or if anyone here has ever ran a race, the only person you're really running against is yourself, which sounds kind of, whatever, but you really need to like be able to push yourself. So, and like having like the determination and sticking with it. And I don't know if it's the running or the athlete part, but like that stubbornness in me, I'm like, no, I'm going to get this. I think that just has carried over with the art making.
Wow, that's a cool story. That's awesome. Yeah, I understand what you mean. I knew that I could see the discipline, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to hear the backstory on that. Actually, Matt was an athlete in college. He played football, and yeah, I'm sure some of that carries over because you really got to be on point to do stuff like that, to operate at a top level. That's great. Yeah, and then there are a lot of athletes that go pretty far, but then I mean, top level athlete being paid to be on the field, that's like super rare. Everything has to go right.
So
Yeah.
I actually I also get to coach as a art teacher, which is nice. So I coach track. It's like herding cats, let's be real. And I've coached middle school before. I mean, I've coached high school before, so it's very different. But I think something I try to teach the kids is try to be a lifelong athlete. So, I mean, especially in middle school, they want to try everything, and they should. They shouldn't just put all their eggs in one basket. And then you got kids though who have no days off. They haven't taken a day off of rest, and then their legs are killing them. So you tell them, like, you have to rest. Take at least one day, take at least 2 days. If you have to sit at practice, whatever. Because I mean, you don't get it because you tell your body to do something and then it performs. So why would it do anything else? And when you haven't experienced that, and then you get injured, and it's frustrating when your body won't do what like your mind and your heart wants it to do. So I think that's just like I guess probably the best part about coaching now is being able to learn what I've learned and then try to get the kids convinced to do that,
Wow, that's cool. It's kind of ironic. I mean, how many art teachers are coaches for, what I mean, phys ed? And because it's kind of like, people think it's in a different category,
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Runners are weird.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I played basketball and baseball. I never thought about running, but
yeah,
I do run.
It's weird. I can say it because I was one, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that I have that background, especially with kids in art class. The athletes are like the kids who have other interests other than art. I feel like I can relate to them because I'm not just one thing. And so it's possible.
Yeah, that's really good. That's excellent. Yeah, that school's lucky to have you.
Thanks.
How did you find that school? Did you live close by?
Yes, it's a neighboring town. And I'm in the town that I grew up in, and it's an affluent town. So I'm very, very fortunate to be there. I'm actually one of 3 art teachers at my school.
That's it?
3 art teachers at a middle school.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like 10 at the high school. Like,
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm at the high school, so I can't remember. Dude,
yeah.
they got art teachers at your school?
Yeah, we got art teachers.
How many art teachers you got?
Yeah, we have 2 art teachers. But you were saying before, you were talking about being 2 ends in the spectrum, art and tech ed, but they should be pretty similar because they share a lot of the same disciplines. But that's right where I go. They dump kids on us, or something happens with the specialist schedule, and I need to get something off my chest. That's where I go to the art teacher, because you have the same frame of mind.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, can you believe this? We have an assembly this period, end of the marking periods in 2 days, and I still have 5 days of work left.
Yeah.
So that's where I run to, the art teacher. Phys ed teachers, they don't care.
That's cool. That's a good point. I actually should reach out. I like the art. The art teachers in my school are like super talented, and I don't get to see them because they're in a different building, but it's just across the street. I really should visit more often. I do a lot of collaborations with the science department, only because we have a little flexibility. They don't just do the labs. They've been doing some experiments. So they always need like something built, like a light bar for their aquaponics or whatever. So they come down and they're like, oh, can you make this thing for us? And we collaborate, What about you, Matt? Did you do any graphics? Because I mean, they got the blueprints, they got the color of the house, painting. I mean, how is it not an art project? I mean, it kind of is, right?
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we only have 1 art teacher in the high school, and when I was in junior high, we had like 2 or 3. But last year, I think we had 1 art teacher for the junior high and high school, and she had to drive back and forth. And then there's 1 art teacher that does elementary that travels around to 3 elementaries. I think that's how that goes, and they're like there once a week. But now, before I started on the job site, I taught AutoCAD, AutoCAD drafting, AutoCAD, and 3D modeling. We don't have like a design program or anything. I'd love for one to happen, but I mean, being a small school and stuff. And then, but Brittney, I meant to say my oldest stepdaughter goes to SCAD for animation. She's a freshman down at SCAD at the Savannah College of Art and Design.
Oh,
I'll have to show her this video.
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, this is inspiring. I can't even, like, I got it scrolling here. This, you know, the one we were looking at. I want to ask about these trees and how it like really looks like you're looking at like a Google Earth or something. It's like I feel like I'm in a drone flying over the jungle or something, you know, like before humans like showed up. It's really cool. What about Nick? Do you ever coordinate with the art teachers at all?
When we first got our 3D printers, we collaborated across high school and elementary schools. We had a disabled child that had a partial hand, so we printed a 3D printed hand for him.
Wow.
And the one art teacher at the high school, he and I were working together with our TV production class, but you know, every once in a while we'll collaborate on, you know, what he's doing in his graphic design and, you know, and 3D printing on his end as far as creating bases and whatnot, and how I'm creating products. So
That's cool.
I love the 3D printers. I put one in the chat, ceramic 3D printer. I sent that to the art teachers for them to check out when they're doing curriculum next year.
Interesting.
Wow.
All right, I'll pull that up. That's pretty cool.
I'm always promoting 3D printers. I tell the family consumer science teacher, she's right down she's only a couple classrooms down, get a 3D printer for food. You get
Dude,
3D
pancakes.
stuff like that.
So along with shop class that they got rid of consumer science too. We have engineering and design and tech apps.
You know, that's unfortunate because a lot of these kids, you know, just even in the elementary level, you know, they take these specials away. But I know, like, talking to my own kids, some of these kids go to school just for the specials, you know, to do a project in shop class or to work on their, you know, project they're working on in art class, or to get to cook something in family consumer science. And everything's data driven and test scores. Like, I laugh at it. Like, the central administrators are asking for test scores to improve, you know, 2 years after COVID. We're just trying to get the building back to running somewhat normal.
Yeah.
You know? And they're worried about test scores. Like, get out of the office, come into the schools.
Yeah.
I work in a very high performance district. And like, it's the same thing. Like there's math teams and stuff like that, and kids, you know, making sure they get into like certain classes, honors class and this and that. But yeah, they are like, do they know how to like take care of like basic things at home in the kitchen or whatever that, like, I don't know. It's just, I think it's really sad that they got rid of those things. And just as you're saying, like, some kids have just come to school for art. There's this, we have a special privilege, I think, of seeing students as their authentic selves. And I say that because, like, I've had a few students where they are completely calm and relaxed and enjoy the class, but outside that classroom or the other safe spaces they have, they're not that way, and they're not viewed that way. And
yeah.
So it's
in affluent areas, like they're always told by their parents, you have to get good grades, or teachers, you have to get good grades. They're so stressed out, you know, they get, it's like a stress reliever coming to our class. They don't have to think about school, you know, and just get their minds off things and be more, you know, productive with their hands.
Yeah.
So that's something.
No, it's a good point.
I was just going to say, the district constantly tries to talk about redefining success. A lot of it's the is parents. They move to the district because they know the district and they want their kids to perform well. And a lot of parents and families leave the district after their kids graduate. So redefining success, I actually had my younger sister, who's a graphic designer, come in and speak to the kids and show them her work, because I was teaching digital art at the time to these 8th graders, and I thought it was really valuable for them to see that something that they're learning in school now, they could go to a state school for an art major and have a job right out of college and be successful. And I thought that was really important, and it was really cool to like share that with my sister too.
That's cool. You brought her in as a guest. That's great. Yeah. What is success anyway? The kids always ask me, they always say, hey, how do I get rich? And I always say, just help more people more often. That's all you got to do. If you could help them through inspiration, through your artwork, or you help them through a service, or you have a product, you solve some sort of efficiency thing with engineering or whatever. But, kids don't understand that. I always say to them, as far as like these test scores, they stress out, I'm in an urban neighborhood. This is like the opposite, but they still stress the test. And on the loudspeaker, here's the top 25. It's embarrassing for the other students, because everybody who memorizes stuff and puts it on a test, they're in the top 25. But if you're solving problems and you're building stuff with your hands and you're making something, you're somehow not as valuable as someone who did a high test score. It's not quite right. And we all know it too. And the parents know it too, but they just go through the motions,
I mean, are they even thinking about the students that are in the top 25? Because it's a lot of pressure to maintain that. Once you've gotten that, then you have all this pressure and making sure you maintain that achievement. So it's
so I like having these alternatives. It's nice that art and shop class is like kind of like breaks the mold. It's kind of outside the norm. It's the reason I keep the job. People are saying to me that they can't believe I'm a teacher, and I'm like, yeah, well, but I'm not really like a teacher. I'm me, but I teach. It's like, it's a totally different situation. Pretty cool. How about Scott Gotcher, Clever Grain? Is he here? I see you got the thing here. If he wants to join in the conversation, tell us about, is he teaching or is he doing work in let's see, I think I pulled him up right here. Do you know him?
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. I met actually at Workbench Con.
Oh, nice. This is beautiful stuff. Really cool. Look at all the stuff he's making. This is pretty cool. He's probably got us on in the background. We're looking for the unmute button as we speak. This is great. Like, look at this. What? That's amazing.
Yeah, I really like that rose gold one too.
That's really cool. And look at all the little swirlies with the art piece, like the pearls, the pearlescence.
Yep. That's going back to talking about pigment as a texture.
Okay, interesting. Oh wow, look at that. I didn't realize. Does he actually have it on the surface and on the bottom surface?
So that's a casting. So it was made with a mold, and then the wood was put in, and then the epoxy poured in the middle. Then you remove that outer mold and then sand it all down, and now it's just one piece.
Wow, it's really cool. That is awesome. Wow, look at this piece. Oh my god. Oh, here's the mold. Is that a flexible mold?
Yeah, that one looks like a silicone mold.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes people, I think, build their own too.
This is pretty cool. All right, so I want to know about these. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm really distracted. Look at this. Wow. All right, we got to have this guy on. This is ridiculous. That's great. Okay, so I want to know about how do you get the trees to look like this? And are those trees, is this like you'd steal all the broccoli from the grocery store or something? Or
100%. Yep. Actually, it's a chia pet. So not only does it look like it's land, it grows into a Bob Ross afro.
it's amazing.
It's not a chia pet. Yeah, they're just like these little, almost like foam bushes, and you can get them in different shades of green, and they make all different textures. Some are more clumps, some are smaller. They also make like the fine turf.
Yeah, train enthusiasts use this type of decor for their modeling.
For the trains. Imagine like
Scenics.
what's that?
Woodland scenics.
Woodland Phoenix, he said?
Scenics.
Scenics.
Scene.
Oh, here we go. This is like, we're nerding out here. You got to help us with, that's. I'm sure you're like, why is he asking about the trees? Oh my God, look at this scene. How many of us had a train set growing up? I mean, come on. This is like awesome. I haven't done trains since I was a kid. This is like a fun thing. What is it about trains? Why do people like this so much? I have no idea. It's just the miniaturization of it. That is great. Pretty cool. Did you ever think about doing like a train scene? You'd kill it. It would be amazing.
A functional art piece.
Yeah. Or no, it doesn't have to function. You could just lock a train in the tracks there, frozen in time.
But what if it was functional? Like that's next level.
Dude, I'm telling you, this would be. I'll be like back when she was just doing landscapes.
She threw in a train.
Then she was on the Shop Class podcast, and of course they're like, "Oh, dude, model trains." All right, pretty cool. What about Dave Bauer? Let's hear from him. Is he there?
Okay. Hi.
Dave, are you a teacher as well? What is your daily operation here?
No, my daily operation is not teaching. I work for a safety consulting company, so we do safety consulting. And I work with a lot of schools and science departments and stuff like that, but not a teacher.
Okay, that's cool. We'll forgive you. It's all right. But you are a teacher because you were at the Maker Fair teaching people about printmaking.
That's true. Yes, I did do that. I was sharing the little that I know about that and learning along with everyone else.
I'm gonna try and find it. Oh, I saw these when I was there. I was like, wow, this is awesome.
On Maker Camp.
Yeah,
Maker Camp. Yeah.
Maker Camp. I keep saying Maker Fair.
Getting in trouble.
So Dave, did you have shop class growing up? Did you do any of this stuff?
Yes. Yep. We had shop class in middle school. I don't know what they had in high school because I didn't go to any of those classes. So, but I know they had like drafting and stuff like that. I don't know how much real world stuff they did. But yeah, we had a bandsaw. We had wood shop and metal shop. We did the wood shop, metal shop, electric, and small engines. So we had everything.
Pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So, I was curious. So, yeah, we got to get the art teachers and the shop teachers together. I think that's probably maybe. Does that happen more at the woodworkers? The workbench con. Do you feel like that happens more than Maker Camp?
What emerging of artists and makers?
Getting the art, the art with the with the makers.
I actually met a lot of makers that, ironically or coincidentally, also went in as a graphic design major or went in some fine art major, and then they're now making stuff instead of the fine art stuff. I don't know. I like I said, it was my first time, But most people I spoke to worked with wood, and there are some people did a combination of wood and epoxy, like Scott. But yeah, I think there are definitely artists there, just probably not as many, or they are artists, but they are makers now too, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's go through some of your artwork here.
Hey, Ron, have her
Yeah.
talk about what is it, a heat gun you use, Brittany, to
Oh yeah.
I don't know, I saw you like wanding it. This is where, okay, so I put the email together for this, and I literally called you the Bob Ross of resin, epoxy or whatever, like, because you were doing that, and it was exactly like a Bob Ross thing. Like you were,
It
I don't know.
was. I gotta tell you, that's the best compliment I've heard in a long time.
Well,
watched-
like you were doing it just like Bob Ross. I was like, oh my gosh, like I thought it was a heat gun.
It probably was. We could go to, was it on, obviously on Instagram, but
Yeah.
I showed my students today a Bob Ross video, and I'm like, aren't your eyes just happy just watching this? So you just saying that, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a compliment.
That's cool. It's so true. Yeah, I mean, I could watch this. I'm just like,
Fine.
wow, how do you do
Hey
all
Ron, go back on. I think because it's almost like there's one where it has a flare kind of thing on the tip.
that? Oh,
And
right.
literally, it looks like she's painting
Yeah,
with
it's
the heat gun.
fan.
Yeah.
In like the
Um,
wave, in the waves, or the foam of the waves like
one?
move out. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That one.
I think
Maybe
so.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. So you probably like you make the videos like quick and you chop them up and stuff, and that's great. But I think people would watch you like just make all the stuff happen. You know, that would be wild.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a long time. Like the wave itself, I do have, I think, one on there. I think I actually did it in real time, but I don't think it would do well on Instagram. It would have to go on like YouTube or something like that, which I've thought about getting into, and I just haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Oh my God, it's so hard to balance all these things. There's so many things. And then who knows with Twitter might have a comeback. You never know. Now, what's this technical detail here? It's cracking. Is that bad?
No, it's intended. That was my Maker Swap art piece, and I used this texture cracking paint, and I was just making it cure faster by using my heat gun for it to dry, so then I could brush in some acrylic paint to like set into the cracks and stuff.
That's cool. You probably now when it comes to heat gun, is there like a certain type? Like I got my heat gun right here.
Yeah, I don't think the heat gun itself is
attachments on.
the one I have, it came with a few different attachments, and the fun thing about the different nozzles is that they create different types of waves, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
Like the Cape Cod one at the top, that was made, as you can see, with the fan.
Right.
And then that one that we just looked at with the pour, I actually used two different ones.
Am I in the right spot?
No.
What about this one?
So that one is different than that fan nozzle one. They just create different types of waves. I'd say this one's more of like rushing, and they do make a more narrow version of this.
Do you have to wait for it to get thick before you do this, or is this still in the right after you poured it?
Yeah, this is right after you pour it. So I would equate it to a honey consistency, and the warmer you make it, the shorter your working time is. So it's a weird dance of like, make sure it's warm enough, but don't make sure it's not too hot, because if it's a little cool, it'll be more thick. Might not cure properly. A lot of bubbles trap into it. If it's too hot, it could cure too fast, have an exothermic reaction. Just Yeah.
What's an exothermic reaction? What happens?
So I'm not a science person, so this is not going to sound sciencey at all.
Oh, no,
But
right.
I think what happens is that
More than I know about it.
it heats up so quickly that let's say it was a casting, the heat would like make it crack and warp. I think it could even catch on fire if it was like large enough.
Wow.
But that's basically what I know about it. Hasn't happened. Not gonna
Oh,
lie.
okay.
Yeah.
You also have like space photos or space background.
Yeah, I've done some paintings. I messed around. I dabbled a little in with like cosmic galaxy stuff.
Is it a spacescape?
Yeah, I guess you could call it that.
It's pretty cool.
Thanks.
I think those are going to do really well in the future because space is going to open up big time. They're going back to the moon. They're like circling it right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Like, what's that?
What's the like?
So it's a NASA mission. It's called Artemis, and it is the sister to Apollo. And they're going back for good, and they're like no nonsense. Like they're setting up a base.
Wow.
Yeah, NASA needs to like step up and kind of, because they went silent since '69. They haven't done. I mean, they've done a lot, but they haven't really. The space station's kind of a big deal, but
Yeah.
they haven't really like gone back. And so they're going back, and they're going back to build like a whole space station out there where you could like stay.
It's insane.
Yeah, we had a girl who graduated. She's an adult, but anyway, she graduated before I started teaching at the school where I am now. But so I didn't know her as a student, but she, like her sister, still works at the school, so I had a contact. So she's the coordinator, one of the coordinators. So we had her on the show about 1.5 years ago, and she explained the whole mission to us. It's pretty wild. Yeah, they're out there, and then SpaceX is going to be going to Mars probably in the next couple years. So space is going to be just right now. Space is like yeah, space. I think it's going to be massive coming up
Hot
as far
topic.
as people's interest.
Also done some watercolor commissions too. So those are sprinkled in there somewhere.
I did see those. Oh, here we go.
There's one.
It's really nice. The house, nice.
A lot of I guess call them house portraits.
Ah,
I
okay.
guess.
Do you teach the kids perspective and stuff like that?
Yep. 6th grade. They learn 1 point perspective.
Yeah.
Gotta make
Point,
huh?
1 point, 2 point, 3 point. Yeah.
We used to do 2-point perspective drawings.
Those
More
are
when we used like pencil and paper to draw, like mechanical drawing.
Yeah.
Because they were so tired of doing like your 3D shapes, your orthographic, isometrics.
Yeah.
In middle school, you show them like the 2-point perspective drawing in it, kept them interested a little bit more.
Yeah. A 7th grade learns 2 point perspective too. So like we make sure we like up at a level and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I remember one student was like, I want to draw like buildings, like what an architecture draws. And I go, you have to master 1 point perspective first. So we were learning it. And he goes, well, I want to do like real stuff. I'm like, well, you kind of need to know this first.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. When I used to teach mechanical drafting, and then now I teach drafting freehand because it's just too much time to get them to get everything all perfect. And we're going to computer for all our CAD stuff anyway, Blueprint. So, but yeah, so I get them started on 1 point and 2 point, but then also it's hard. They don't understand that vanishing point situation. That's difficult for them, so it's a good lesson. And then orthographic, like top view, side view, front view, whatever. Right. That's like super important, especially to read a plan or to look at it, you know.
I think also too, if you're working with your hands, building that dexterity of drawing on paper is greatly important. And it's also getting them to think about in the round or how, or in order for to draw something three-dimensional, you have to understand it in space. So those other ways of thinking, they can apply it to when they're actually constructing something because they can picture in their mind or they can draw it up or something like that. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. The cape is something magical, you know?
Yeah, this is the first one I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was very bright. The blues.
I like that. That's pretty cool.
Now,
You
does
know,
the heat gun also aid in removing air bubbles?
It does. It definitely does. But a torch is definitely needed because you won't get it out all the time.
See, this is art, but it's really a
100%.
science.
Yeah.
It's like I got the epoxy, I have the pigments and everything. I just can't pull the trigger because I can just imagine how much time I'm gonna spend researching it.
actually, yeah.
I was just saying, you pull a Brittney and just go for it and see if you develop after
Enroll in your middle school art class. I'll fit right in.
Oh, do you, Brittney, do you have classes coming up?
Do I have classes? What do you mean?
I don't know. Do you have any
Oh,
classes?
I'm just gonna sit in your middle school class.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not teaching epoxy, but
No, I'm
yeah.
saying not just the public school, but have you thought about teaching the epoxy?
Oh, I misunderstood. I have. I would love to do that. I would like to do it in a few different ways, like in person, and then also like have lessons that people could stream or something like that. I think that'd be really cool. Where like so I don't have to be just local. And honestly, something that I would actually prefer to do, I don't want to just teach epoxy. I want to teach the mixed media aspect of it because I think a lot of people are learning how to do it, but I think there's an element of God, I mean, saying this doesn't sound good, but it's an element of creativity that's kind of lacking because it's like you can learn this technique, but how are you going to apply it to something else? Because it's one element that anyone can learn.
So it's not just the mixing of epoxy. It's also like, what's your background? What type of pieces are you going to put in? Is that what you mean?
I think for me, it's like, well, you could think of it this way. You're teaching a student perspective, but what are they making? Like what's the connection to them to the artwork? And then what are they creating with the perspective? So it's kind of the same thing with epoxy. It's just the medium. I could like, yeah, we're doing an ocean, but I feel like.
Oh, okay. Like if you can't handle the scale of these waves, then you wouldn't be able, then it wouldn't matter that you have epoxy. It wouldn't fit with the scene. Is that what you mean? I'm guessing here.
I mean, like taking the medium of making waves or epoxy and like applying it to using it with some other medium, but it's not just learning the skill or the technique, but and actually creating art with it.
Yeah. Like how would you use it? Right. So you used it for waves and for ocean scenes. But how is this new person going to try it out? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or just different ways that they can use epoxy, but also I think just tapping into their creativity is really important.
Oh, that's cool.
I also cast flowers too when I'm not making waves.
Let's see. Whoa, that's crazy. Is that heavy?
Yeah.
Whoa. How do you get them to stay still while you're pouring it all in there? Is it like glued in and?
No, it's a mold, and then you have to dry out the flowers. So to keep their form and their color, you can use silica gel crystals, and you kind of just submerge the flowers in these and leave them in there for a couple weeks, and then you just slowly pour into the casting. And yeah, you want to do it slowly just because like the flowers can create bubbles and stuff, so they really don't move unless you completely cover them, then they'll float.
You could sell those to like wedding planners, man.
Yeah, I do mostly wedding flowers and bereavement flowers.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, the hard part is like it's flower casting is like a completely separate entity to like the other mixed media stuff I'm doing. So I feel like it's hard for me to like, I do both, but I don't know how much I want to do with the casting, but that is an idea. Like reach out to wedding planners and stuff like that, so people can include it in their registry. And the bereavement flowers it's kind of special. I'll do like little tea light candles, so they get to remember the person lighting a candle, and the flowers are from the funeral and that sort of thing.
It's amazing. This is kind of cool. This like this bottle stopper thing. This has a little scene in it.
Yeah, those are flowers. So that's a little casting.
How do the flowers not get like just crushed?
So
Like
they're
the roses in there.
Yeah, they're completely dried out, and then you can only really pour, depending on the casting you're using, a casting resin like 1.5 inches to 2 inches at a time. So it just stays. There's actually,
Oh,
I was gonna say there's a video of me like moving around with a heat gun inside of a mold with the flowers in it. It's way up there, but there's
oh, these are miniatures.
Yeah, so your
closer.
question, Duke, you know, I know when I cast stuff in for pens or bottle stoppers, I use a pressure pot. So I'm putting 50, 60 psi in a pressure pot, and it miniaturizes the bubbles instead of popping them with heat gun or alcohol mist.
So do you use a pressure vessel of any kind?
So I was recently gifted one by Total Boat because I've just done the really painfully traditional way of getting bubbles. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a sentimental post. We don't need to watch it.
I saw that one. That was very from the heart. It was very nice.
I want one of those.
Yeah. So if you scroll down a little bit more, you actually will see like the hexagon. There it is in the middle. Next.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that's
Whoa.
in order for me to not get any bubbles, I really have to do it slowly, the casting, and you can't use a torch unless the flowers are completely covered, because you'll torch the flowers, so you have to use a heat gun. And then I've learned that the flowers can keep trap air, so when you're pouring it, making sure that you'll pay attention if any air bubbles are going to arise that way too. And you can also use isopropyl alcohol and just give a little mist over it, because that can help pop up bubbles too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Think of it this way. So the waves, the white foamy waves I make, it's made an alcohol ink. So when you torch it, it like creates those little cells, foam.
Wow, interesting. Oh, that's mixed into the epoxy, and
Well, it's mixed into the pigment.
That's the white on the blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Whoa. I mean, I literally have I'm coming from nothing. I mean, I showed you, this is, I can fix things with that's all I've done is like repair broken crap. I've never made any art with this. This is pretty cool.
I know Nick was talking about the pressure pot at Maker Camp, and I'm like,
Yeah, and then I also have the vacuum chamber for stabilizing things, which is a thinner resin, and then you bake it in a toaster oven or an oven to stabilize it. So like funky woods or thinner materials or thin weight wise materials, you stabilize them so they're stable in resin, and when you cast around them, then you don't get the air bubbles and all that as well.
Interesting. So have you
It's a
used
rabbit hole.
vessel yet?
Yeah, rabbit holes, right?
Oh, it's echoing. Brittney, did you use the pressure the vacuum vessel yet?
No, I still have to get, I think I have to get something to make it work. And it was the air pressure or whatever it's called, something compressor. Yeah.
Air compressor.
So I think I'm a little scared. So I've just been putting it off, but I have a bunch of castings I have to do. So I'm probably going to mess around with one first before I stick somebody's precious flowers in it, mess it up. So I'll have to keep everything updated.
As long as your pressure pot holds good, has a good seal. I know mine personally doesn't. So, our school compressor, it's a 120 gallon, compressor. So I don't mind that it keeps running, but if you're going to buy a pancake type compressor and your pressure pot is not sealed, you're going to have a lot of cycle time as far as your compressor goes, keeping it, up to pressure.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes.
So, you can, I think mine will start leaking around 20 or 30 PSI, and, you're trying to get up to that 60 optimal. And so if you're
Need something bigger than this, right?
well, that'll do it as long as, I'm pretty sure the total boat pressure pot is, much higher quality than my pressure pot, which is Harbor Freight. So, the seals are that much better, and the tightening bolts or whatever are that much better as well. So, if you're leaking at 20 pounds, with the compressor, then just tighten it down a little bit, and it should seal it off. Where at 60 pounds, it should be totally sealed, and you'll be able to disconnect your air compressor, and it'll hold that pressure. So, and there's nothing to be worried about because I've had mine accidentally up to 80 and it hasn't exploded me. So
Good.
Yours is at 60 pounds will be just fine.
Okay. Sounds good.
What about the pressure pot? Is it just from cooking? Is that the type of pressure pot, or where do you get this thing
Well,
from?
I know mine is from the paint world, so it's a pressure pot for painting. So instead of like an airless type sprayer, you're pressurizing your paint to force through the tube. So that's where this all started as far as, pressure pots go. And then, companies took it on and, made it higher quality and all that. So
Let's talk about the pigments for a second. So how do you choose your pigments? Like, I wouldn't even know the first thing.
Well, I'm fortunate to have like a very extensive amount and all different variations, but so sometimes it's a little overwhelming. I tend to not use a lot of it because I want to keep the color kind of translucent. I would say, I mean, it really depends on whatever I'm making. Like, it's funny, some pigments people are really drawn to. Like there's one called Aphrodite's Obsession. It's a hot seller. I don't know what it is about it, but I've used it with on my olive wood cutting boards with like flowers and stuff, and it's a very popular color. I don't know why.
Okay. What's the difference between a single tone pigment and a two-tone pigment?
I don't know. I would say a two-tone would probably have to do with, oh, there's Aphrodite's session. So I would say, I guess there's a shift in color in the light. So sometimes it's a little more like a blue purple that's in there too.
Whoa.
I guess that would be a two-tone pigment.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It adds depth to the mica powder.
What's that?
It adds depth, as far as when you pour, it adds, a little bit more feeling to the pour itself.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, look at those colors. Oh man, this is cool. Yeah, I got into painting cars a little bit, but I would like to explore that more. And it's kind of the same thing. You have to learn about all these different pigments and your different layers and stuff. It's pretty interesting. There's a big learning curve here. And then if you mess up, it's expensive and you got to start over. So,
Oh yeah. I think a lot of how I pick pigments is I just mess around. I think that's kind of how I do everything. I'm just like, I don't know if this is gonna work, but
that's the best way.
sometimes it doesn't. And I think that you kind of have to be okay with a lot of mess ups. But
fluorescent. Let's go back to the 80s. This is a throwback. Got glitter. And
they recently came out with some that they're like chameleon pigments, but I don't know if they're called chameleon. I don't know if that was the word that they used.
okay.
Well, I mean, like I tested them out before they were like on their website, and I don't know if they called them chameleon pigments, but I don't think that's what they were launched as. Let me see.
Oh, so they changed. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the color shift.
Oh, maybe that's we found them.
It's probably
Maybe.
like color shift, it appears blue, but then you turn your head or you move it in the light and it becomes purple.
There's a mini pineapple painting on my page, and I used chameleon pigments.
Is it here on Instagram or is it on
yeah,
your...
it's on Instagram.
Okay.
It's further down.
Down? Okay.
Yeah, it's just a little guy. But yeah, I started off with like a stencil, and I used like a matte paste to create this pineapple shape first. And then I put like little gold leaf foil inside of it, and then I put the thing. Oh, that's a different one. But yeah, that's kind of the same. That's one of the things I've done. Sometimes a Posca pen, sometimes gold leaf flakes.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a little further down.
Further down, let's see. So you have a lot of artwork. This one?
Yep.
Whoa.
So I started with the stencil, took the paste, dried it,
So,
and then
wow, that's cool. What is that? What is that white stuff? Is that epoxy?
it's matte paste. It's like it's made by Liquitex. So it's I mean, you can mix probably pigments, acrylic with it. But yeah, you can get a nice thick texture with it, which is great.
I want to drive a car that looks like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
What color would you call that?
You can't call it a color. It's not. It's just magic. That's it. Can't explain that. Just call it magic. I don't know.
That could work.
Yeah. It's magic paint. What color is that? Magic. Super cool. This is awesome. Okay, so let me ask you a question. What like, let's say you were going to recommend someone would start in introducing this to their shop class, epoxy. Where do you think they should start and then where should they take it? You know, what do you suggest? How do you get started with this?
I would probably say talking about the safety precautions and just drilling it into their heads that you're going to do this without even thinking, because you need to, this is really important. And then I think mixing it properly, making sure it's at the right temperature, well mixed, the proper amount, stuff like that. Those like technical things to go through first. And then I'd probably say, you could do something where they have to use pigments, and it could be like a color theory thing. I don't know. I'm trying to think how, I guess maybe you could give me examples of what projects you guys do, and maybe I can like figure out a way to like, I don't know. But
Well,
You know who needs to do this, Ron? Like learn how to do this for the kids in a shop class setting is Chris Henry. They're at Henry Ford that builds all the paddle boards and stuff, all their stuff they do. Like tying this stuff in would be like ridiculous.
dude, yeah. So
Their
there's
students build paddle boards for celebrities.
this is a shop teacher close to Detroit, and they build just ridiculous hollow paddle boards, and the believe it or not, the kids are doing them. You know,
so cool.
yeah, and they're always doing these inlays. So yeah, I guess they are kind of doing epoxy on top in a way.
Yeah, because they'll do epoxy. Yeah,
like afterwards, right? Like when this is done, they're gonna put a layer on top, right?
yeah, but you know they could do it in those inlays and stuff too. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, there's endless amount of stuff they could do with what Brittany's doing. You know, tie it in and stuff. And he'll have like all girl teams build boards for certain celebrities, and like it's kind of insane.
Yeah,
Cool.
that is.
You got started. That's really kind of amazing.
This is like, yeah, we're super lucky in this podcast. We get to meet the best people. You know, like this guy's doing like he made a paddleboard for Richard Branson, and it just blew up. Like, you know, and now they're making stuff for, you know, so many different types of celebrities. And then the celebrities are like super enthusiastic about supporting the school. Here's a resin pour right down the middle, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. And they cut out all these things, and then but yeah, like kind of needs a little resin going on. We're gonna have to hook you guys up. So here's Richard Branson with his board from a high school. You know, it's pretty wild. That's awesome.
You know, it'd be interesting. Those little CO2 cars.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be a fun thing to do is to have the wooden cars and then maybe make a casting of the cars, or they have to somehow assemble that, and there's the weight difference or something, and it could be like a whole like scientific project. Like, what's our theory? Like, are these going to be faster, or are they going to be like more aerodynamic or whatever? Or I don't know.
I knew you were a shop teacher. That's so shop teacher. We got you. That's it. Oh, look at this. So is that pigment? Right? That's like you have to add the pigment always, or does it come pre-mixed?
Yes, you always have to add it. Just like your little handy dandy epoxy you have, it starts clear.
Just like this.
Yep.
You could add mica powder to that to make your glue joint seem splendid.
That would be cool.
It'd be full of air bubbles, but it'd be
Yeah.
mica powdered up and all sparkly, dazzled.
I should add pigment, right?
Do you have a silicone sheet?
No. I should get one.
You could also go to the dollar store and get a shower liner. It's a plastic shower liner.
Oh, okay.
Well, I use it on my tables. So to get I mean, silicone sheet's much better, but the epoxy won't stick to it. And what I'm saying is you could take your little mixing thing and you could like take the pigment and just mix it and let it dry on the silicone or plastic sheet and peel it off.
Okay.
And you'll have a thing that you made.
That's cool. I think the kids would dig it. I never done anything with epoxy. That would be pretty good.
Keychain.
Yeah.
Drill a hole in it, make a keychain.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. That would be awesome. Okay. That's pretty cool. Let's see. So yeah, I don't know. You guys got any Matt, I know you got more questions. I feel like you do.
Dude, this is so cool. Like I said, I was watching her when I was putting together the email for tonight. Like I was just jumping on and looking at her stuff, and like I said, the Bob Ross thing is what came to my mind. So I was
It's awesome.
It was impressive. And like I said, my having stepdaughter, she's does art and all this stuff. And so I'd like to be artistic. I mean, I guess, and in some ways I am with house stuff, but I can't, like drawing and all this stuff. It's, I did okay in art class.
I can't. Brittney would never let that happen in her classroom.
I did art, but I don't know who the beholder is who thinks it's beautiful. So
every single artist I've ever met in my life has said that about their own work, themselves, no matter how good they are.
I guess that house I designed, there was my masterpiece. That first house we built, that was my design. So Carmen helped too. So I can't take all that credit on that one, but
yeah. Let me show you this. I mean, it's pretty wild. They don't have a classroom. So this is it. Kids are on the job site building the house. I feel like your house needs some epoxy resin pours. Imagine the floor. What if the floor had, or what about?
We could do the garage floor.
Yeah. Oh, right. Wait a minute. Yeah. What's the deal with epoxy garage floors? Is that a different type of epoxy? I wouldn't even know.
I have no idea. I know it's a thing.
It is all similar as far as the resins and all that. It's
Oh,
just
really?
Longer open time, so your ratio is different.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, how are we going to incorporate an epoxy pour into this house? We got to get that done.
We can make a custom table or something, or a bench for them.
Like even like a large picture above the mantle when they're like showing the house for sale.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
Okay.
So it could be an artwork. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but like I was thinking of an installation, and if there's like a large wall and each kid gets maybe like a 4x4 shaped piece of wood or whatever, and each kid gets to do a design on it. Now, I just happen to have pen and paper here. But I was thinking,
go for it.
Just like, let's see. All right, just imagine like something like this, and it just kept going down, but it was all different colors, like a bunch of squares. And it was just like an installation of like all the different.
What's the back that holds it? Do they place it on there, or how do they do that?
The kids could do the pour on some sort of panel.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then you could just hang it up.
Or whatever. And
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other ways where you can make functional and stuff, but if you were thinking of, I would say if you're trying to get all the kids involved, it's probably be more meaningful for them and be easier to collaborate by each kid doing their own piece. And it's part of a bigger piece.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like something. Liam, my kindergartner's trying to do artwork right now, so he's trying to get paper.
You could also do something if you guys are going to cut something out, and maybe each kid works on a separate piece, and then you put it all together, and it creates an image of something. So they
what
could
about Matt? Aren't you doing LED lighting. Can you put LED lights casted into the epoxy and turn them on?
Yeah. You can't. I've seen stuff like that done. I mean, if something goes wrong, you're never getting to it. But
Yeah, it's behind. That's
But-
pretty cool.
no, I like the idea of doing something like that, or like having I don't know, a piece that stays at the house, or that we hang in, even if it's just hung in the garage somewhere or something, like where it's not part of their home decor. So if it doesn't, fit or something, but we have talked about when you build like little nooks or something, building benches and stuff where we could do something like there, or heck, we could even do stuff that would be considered outside too. It doesn't have to be even inside, like we had a patio or a porch or something.
Matt, when you're pouring this epoxy, make sure you do it when Mark Willie's there, so you get some of his beard hairs caught in the cast.
Yeah. We just got the next house plans, and I just messaged Mark, and I was letting him know I was going to be at the build show there here in a month or whatever. So, or 2 months.
Mark Willie, that's a character right there. Brittney, you gotta see this guy. I don't even have a picture of him. Yeah, there we go.
There he is.
This guy's. That's not a costume. He would love this. He would be a great contributor tonight. I don't know where he is.
I don't know if they're doing a recording of another show that he does tonight or not.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. This is awesome. What a cool thing. That would be great to incorporate into the house. Because like can light go through it? Like could you make it as a panel for the skylight or something like that?
If it wasn't, it would probably have to be made from a thin casting in order for it to be translucent, because if you have the panel, light's not gonna go through it. But if you make something that's small enough and thin enough to still keep it at the thickness of a panel, and depending on how much pigment you use, so if you kind of just use a little bit, it can be translucent that way.
Nice. So you got sorry. You got to be careful with the pigment. Were you gonna say, Matt, something?
Oh no! Although you may have talked about this, but when you did the white part, was that just the paint blending in with the epoxy, or was that another epoxy color where you had white when you I don't know, mixed it in with the heat gun?
The foam?
Yeah.
So that's so it's a little bit of epoxy, and then I take the white alcohol ink and an opaque pigment. So the white alcohol ink alone isn't enough. It's not like a pure white or more opaque white. It's a little more translucent. So for the waves, it looks a little better when has a bit more of a contrast against the blue. But yeah, so it has alcohol ink and it has a pigment in it.
How did you come up with the idea that this would work to do that? Like,
I learned it from other people doing it.
Okay. I was just like, man, to think of this. Holy crap.
Well, I started off with, when I was trying to learn something new, I started out with acrylic pouring, and that somehow mixes in with epoxy. And then on YouTube just saw these suggested videos, and I saw making ocean waves, and I'm like, oh my God, that looks so real. And that was probably the most frustrating thing to try to learn. And when I figured it out, oh my gosh, it was just like I had an epiphany or something. I don't know, but I'm like, oh, you just finally nailed it.
Oh, it looks real. It's impressive.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Cool. So you also make all these little pieces. So you have a website that people can find you on.
Mm-hmm.
Where did I put that? Oops. There we go. There we go. And people can buy all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Go to shop. And you sell it right on the website?
Yeah. I also do like a local pickup too. So people can come by my studio. It's not really like a storefront, but it's just sometimes more convenient if they live close and instead of like having it shipped to their house.
Yeah, that's cool. Is this Squarespace?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have Squarespace as well for my website.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
I think it makes a beautiful website. However, I think I've seen it appears that like Shopify is probably much more user friendly. There's like a lot of things I wish Squarespace would do, but I think it creates a nice website. And for them, I don't think I've ever heard someone having a problem buying something, or it was like a pretty straightforward checkout process, which was nice.
Yeah, the checkout's good. I sell my because I have a side business where I teach welding and mechanics and some electric car stuff, and I use Squarespace. It's pretty good, but I don't have events set up yet. But it's pretty straightforward. That's pretty cool. And then you can gift wrap it as well.
Yeah, I actually was taking off the gift wrap things for the large paintings. I'm like, why did I offer that? I don't know. I thought it'd be nice to do for like the holiday season if someone wanted it gift wrapped to check out. I wouldn't include the invoice or something.
You probably get so busy. Oh yeah, I was gonna ask about your schedule. Like, so do you come back from teaching and then you go into the studio and then you create work and also ship out and check emails, and so you're working 2 jobs basically. And weekends.
Yeah. My life is this.
Yeah.
Yep. Go to school, then go to my shop, and then come home and do it all over again.
You probably get the orders at the worst times.
Yeah. The nice thing is got the app on my phone, and then I can like pull up Shippo and pull up the packaging slips and everything. And yeah, it's like, what do I want to focus on today? Or like, why did it take an hour to package 3 things? You know? But it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. So
have you been hiring people, or is it just you?
I have not hired anybody. Probably
That's a lot of work then.
Yeah. The part of it is like you got to train somebody. And then my space is I guess coming from a teacher's perspective, I would want it to be much more straightforward for somebody who's never been in there before, who has no idea what they're supposed to do until they get in there or whatever. I would want to organize it a little bit better for people to know how to navigate the studio. And plus when you're packaging orders, you want to make sure everything looks the same. Like it's you took the time on each of the packages and stuff like that, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can appreciate how much work this takes. That's a lot, plus the day job. Pretty cool. But yeah, I've been teaching allows that, which is kind of nice. You can have a side business, you know. Whereas someone else, I think, if they're working till 6 p.m. or something, or 7 p.m. on something, that would be really difficult. Plus, you get the summers off, right?
Yeah, but I've worked every summer.
At the school?
No,
actually,
I have taught art classes through the district, which has been nice, like week-long art classes. But yeah, I've waitressed. I haven't done that in a while, but did a lot of art fairs past couple summers. So like every other weekend.
That's that work ethic that we were talking about.
Yeah, that doesn't tire. Sometimes I'm like, hey, you should take a break.
Yeah. Oh wow, look at this. That's pretty cool. I like that guy.
It's a little phone grip.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. One time we had a show about terrazzo floors. This is those. They're basically like epoxy resin concrete. What is it? It's like a mixture of like concrete and epoxy.
It's epoxy, but then it's your you have your stone chips, and it gets poured like concrete, but then you grind it down and it gets shined up. A lot of the schools have them, or the Wawas.
Yeah. Super old school, but they inlay it with like the coolest stuff, you know, and they last forever.
Airports have them, so like the wheels on the luggage don't bounce on the tiles.
Right. Just the coolest stuff. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
They're always in the schools, especially. We had a guy on here that did installs, and we were just like mesmerized for like 3 hours. I don't know what happened. I think we were possessed, or what is it called?
Hypnotized.
Hypnotized. we were watching him talk about it, you know.
You know what I want
Right.
to do? Oh, sorry.
Good.
No, have you ever seen the tile floor? It's like the black and white checkered, but like they made it look like there's a massive dip in it, just an illusion.
Whoa.
I feel like that needs to go in a middle school hallway.
Totally. That would be cool. Oh man.
Keep everybody from running.
Exactly.
That's funny. Cool. Well, this has been real good. This is like a deep dive into the epoxy world. It's pretty cool. You know, so is there anything new on the horizon that we should can we get the pre? Oh, that's pretty cool.
So I want to try to start making more large scale work. And I want to actually, instead of doing literal topographical scenes, I want to find a way to abstract them a bit. Be these almost abstractions of like topographical scenes, but on a large scale. So
Nice. Is this large scale, this size?
that's that or bigger. I'd love to try to tackle, because that was most challenging epoxy painting I've done. Just the size, because you have to make sure you get around to popping all the bubbles or all the waves, and it starts becoming tacky. So just being
How long do you have? Oh, sorry.
it depends on the epoxy and how warm it is. I want to say like maybe 40 minutes, 45 at most. It goes by fast. You're like, what happened? That
So you gotta make this whole thing once you're prepped and you start adding your pour. You got 45 minutes to make it happen.
yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
the
fast.
St. Croix, so that Cape Cod pour was done once, but the St. Croix piece I had to do it 3 times because I messed up the first 2.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the nice thing about epoxy. You can pour it on top of it, and with water it creates depth, so it's okay.
Oh wait, what how do you mean? You can, if you didn't like your pour, you pour on top?
I just poured right on top. Yeah.
Oh. Didn't realize you could do that. And then it's kind of like clears it again?
I mean, it really depends on what your end result is. So it doesn't work in every single situation. For me, I do it a lot on other pieces. Like I'll pour more than once. So I'll have like a few different layers of waves. So it's not anything new. What happened the first time is I used too much pigment and it didn't match the substrate. So I scraped off a lot of it. And then the second time, it was curing too fast, and the waves, I couldn't push them out. So the waves look more like lines instead of like fanned out waves. So I had to do it a third time. and then just like have a plan and just worked really fast.
Is this the one?
Yeah.
You had to pour this 3 times, you said?
Yeah.
How much thicker does it get?
Well,
How thick is a pour?
the first one I scraped off most of it, which was devastating.
Oh, wow.
The thickness wasn't too bad. I mean, I think it only can really go up to like an 1/8, but yeah, it wasn't anything terrible. I still had depth. Like that island I made was still raised.
Oh,
So, but if I did another coat, it wouldn't have been.
wow.
You had to scrape it. What do you scrape it with?
I had like this like yellow plastic scraper, like a little squeegee. Poured it into other molds and stuff because I was basically throwing it away.
Was it still like pliable?
No, unfortunately, with epoxy, you use it or lose it. So it's
No, but when you scrape it off, it's still soft. It's not like rock solid yet.
yeah. So I poured it and then I was like, this doesn't work. So while it was still in working condition, I scraped it off. Otherwise, it starts to become like gum. You can't move that around.
This is a volcano?
This, I don't know what this is. I was playing around with cotton and how it kind of creates the illusion that there's like a water splash.
Oh,
And then I made this. This is one of those things where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where it's going to go.
yeah.
I did a cube casting, and then I put that's basically epoxy with cotton on top, and then I just put them together. And it's not done. I would definitely add to it, but that was just me messing around.
That's funny. So this is gonna sound silly, but I just want to share an idea. Maybe it'll spark some other ideas. I had this idea because I have like a messy desk, right? So I thought, well, if I had a desk that was casted with the mess sealed in, then I would be encouraged to clean it up because you don't want a mess on top of a mess. I don't know. I think
So
it's
you
funny.
just be looking at your mess all the time, unless
I
you.
guess so. That's true. Yeah, it would be, but you'd make it like nostalgic. It'd be like all these pieces and stuff from your life. You'd be like, all right, this is cool. It's a good mess, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, then you'd be like, okay, I want to keep it clear because, you know, there must be some reason I keep it messy because like it reminds me I have like all the stuff that I need. But yeah, I probably should clean it up. I don't know.
My desk is messy.
What's that?
My desk is messy too.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny because I don't know why I thought it would be a good idea to epoxy pour that. That's the only time I thought about doing epoxy, and I mean, this is years ago, and just watching this, I was like, oh, you could trap stuff in there. It's kind of interesting. I mean, kind of like the flowers was more beautiful, but this is like you're just messing around. You're like, okay, so that's just cotton balls that you pulled apart, right?
Yeah, I put it on my story. I actually I didn't make a reel of it, but I took a little cup and then I draped the cotton on the inside and then I kind of taped it around the edge and then I just dripped epoxy on it and then let it cure that way. And then I pulled it off and then it looked like these like drips. So what I pulled off is what's attached on top of that casting.
Oh, okay, I get it. That's pretty cool.
So I made them separately and then I attached it like that.
Oh, there you go. Here's adding the pigment. Is that like a lemon slice?
Yep. Real fruity
Easy.
flowers.
Does it stay or does it go bad?
It's dried out, so it should.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anything fresh will definitely rot.
Oh, so how do you dry it? Just leave it out or?
So using the silica gel crystals dries it out. Yeah, it's almost like a sand.
Huh. You just drop it in there and
So you would layer it like basically just like cover it up like as if you're taking your lemon slice and you're at the beach and you're like, all right, we're going to bury you and we're not going to take you out for 2 weeks.
Got it. Okay. I know nothing. This is from learning. I had no idea how to dry out a fruit. That's pretty cool. And you definitely can't eat it. It's not drying it for like eating. It's drying it so you can use it here.
Yeah. Something else I'll probably be getting more into are the 3D waves that I've done.
Oh yeah.
There's like a couple videos of it. It's so like I made them separately and then I curled them up and attached them with UV curing resin.
UV. Oh, you mean you got to hit it with UV to make it cure?
No, for it to attach to a panel and then pouring epoxy around it. The only way it's going to stay is if you use epoxy to make it stay. Like I remember just using like hot glue for the waves to the 3D things, and then I put epoxy around it, and because epoxy gets warm when it cures, it heated up the hot glue, and then bye attachment.
Oh.
So that's why I learned to do the UV stuff. I do have a video of that too, actually.
That's interesting.
It's down that way.
Keep going.
Yeah, I think it's Keep going.
Yeah. Going.
It's the one holding UV cure right there.
Oh, here we go. Oh.
So like I'm attaching the.
Whoa. What's that? That's the UV.
It's the light. UV light.
Whoa. So now you can fold it and stuff.
So I made the waves separately, and then I used a heat gun to shape the waves, the 3D pieces, and then to attach it with the plan of pouring around it, I had to use something just as strong as epoxy, so I used epoxy. The hot glue is no good.
Whoa. This is complicated right here. Oh, go ahead.
Do you ever epoxy inside like lettering that was like on a CNC router or like a laser engraver?
I don't have one, so I've not done that. But I imagine it's similar to like pouring inside of a mold. That you wouldn't be
about like putting it in a syringe. Would it like squeeze out of a syringe, or do you think it's too thick?
Yeah, that's what I think a lot of makers use. Actually, Total Boat does have syringes, and you can fill it up, and then you just in small spaces just squirt it in.
Yeah, that's how Derek does it.
Yep. Oh, this is another way you can use pigments to paint with.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So then once you pour it, like to get it flat with the piece of wood again, would you have to like run it through a belt sander, planer?
For pouring it into an inlay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you would have to run it through. Or you could use probably an orbital, but you probably want it much more even with the board, so probably.
That looks crazy, by the way.
Thank you.
That's freaking crazy.
Okay, I've had kids do inlays, and then we run it through the drum sander, and then we hand sand it down to the finer grits to polish it back out.
Yeah, because those middle school kids love sanding, so I was like,
it's hilarious.
Keep going.
I mean, you could also cheat and sand up to probably like 320, and then just do a mass pour over everything, and do like a flood coat and have it just naturally even out itself and have a glossy surface as well.
You usually have to wet sand the edges of stuff, so that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it were to pour.
So is this wave attached?
Yep. So that was another one. The first one I did actually of the 3D waves, and this one was done with hot glue. And then I started throwing in other stuff in there, other super glues and stuff to make it stick. Because I'm like, this isn't working.
This is cool. I spent some time learning how to surf. I don't know how to do it. I'm horrible, but in the summer. But when I look at this, I'm just like, whoa! Like, imagine you were out there on a board. That'd be really scary. So it's kind of like, I'm sure people that are into the ocean look at this and are just like, you know, it's cool. You know, it's like, wow, you got this like open little rip here. This is very cool.
Thank you.
Are those waves hard and then you attach them, or they're okay? How do you get it to curl over like that?
I use a heat gun. So I remove it from the silicone sheet that I made them on, and then I use the heat gun to shape it, and then I find a way to like secure it that way and let it fully cure as a curve.
Right. And so, and it wasn't fully cured when you pulled it out of the silicone mold.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of timing in this.
Yep. Well, science.
I think you could do the Bob Ross thing. You could there you go. You could oh wow, it's glowing.
Yeah, so this is a piece I haven't finished yet, actually. And I made the 3D waves, and then I decided to throw in some glow-in-the-dark pigments too.
Did you guys, this is going to sound funny, but did you guys ever, as a kid, you got like something like this, like these glow-in-the-dark things, and like you just become obsessed with it like all night? You're like, what? And like everybody, the house went to bed. You're just like, and you just go nuts. This would be one of these things where if a parent had this, I could see like the kid flipping out, like with a little UV light looking at it and stuff. Oh, I guess the college kids too would enjoy this as well. The UV lights, yes. That's cool. Yeah, you got
galaxy paintings.
What's that?
Those galaxy paintings that you think are up and coming. Should put those glow in the darks in there.
Yeah, people would flip out. Oh my god. That's cool. That's great. Well, anyway, all right. Well, it's getting late. This is pretty good. I think we got in there. I think we talked about it. This is pretty cool. Yeah,
well,
there's a lot to it. You spent a lot of trial and error for the benefit of all of us. Thank you for doing all this. This is great.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, yeah. So we'll end the recording here. If anybody else has any other questions, they could jump in now.
Next time I want a demo.
Yeah, I think that's the next thing, like the Bob Ross thing. Yeah, try it out. Maybe you do a demo. That'd be cool.
I'd love to do that. That's sick.
Oh, what if it's like what if you sold a kit, right? Very reasonable size. For people that know nothing like me, we get the kit and we get a scheduled time. And we say, okay, we're going to tune in to Brittney on this day, and we're all going to do it together. We're going to do something this big. And you're like, okay, you guys ready? Yep. Okay, here we go. And you do the thing. That would be kind of cool. Right?
That would be cool.
Because I think that, not everybody's going to jump in as far as you went into like the ocean of epoxy, But so imagine people just getting started. They're like, oh, I just want to try it. And then it's like, it's like a paint and sip, but virtual.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Virtual paint and sip.
Yeah. I wonder if you could, how small can you go, like, and still be fun? Otherwise, it's a lot because you have to get the different resins. You got to get the gloves. You got to get the squeegee. You got, there's a lot to it to get started.
The other thing too is it depends on the resin you're using. It has VOCs, so they would need to have a respirator or at least be in a ventilated environment.
Nah, don't worry about it.
We're shop teachers. We're all right.
If
it's too late for us, Brittney.
I'm not talking about you guys. Yeah, you guys are lost causes. No, I'm thinking I was just thinking in general, if like for people to do it, I probably have them sign something saying like you are messing with something that's toxic until it's cured. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
we have, when I teach the welding, I do it in a warehouse. It's pretty big, so everything just rises up, Yeah, I mean, sure, it would be really good, and we open all the stuff, you know. I mean, obviously, you ever, it'd be great to be like super careful, but there's only so much you can do, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that is this is potent, right? Like when this is going, it's like you can smell it, like it's super.
Some have more strong of a smell than others. But yeah, I mean, I don't really notice it as much until like I leave and then I come back, or I'll smell it on my clothes.
Oh.
It's kind of a gross thing.
So when you do an epoxy, because I know when you mix these, oh my god, they stink. When you do an epoxy, all of them are need to be ventilated. Are there any that don't release this type of toxin at all, or no?
I mean, some might say no VOCs. I'm not sure. There's so many different brands out there. But yeah, as long as you have some airflow.
Okay. Yeah, just open the window or get the thing, right? The
Yeah.
carbon
Yeah.
cartridges.
But yeah, I'll definitely smell it. Like if I come back to my studio the next day, I'm like, ooh, it's strong in here because I did a pour.
Right.
Is that why you don't do it in school?
Um, I think just because it's just never been part of the curriculum. Um, I guess for me, I have a hard time feeling okay with teaching it to kids in school because I have had kids take the hot glue gun and squeeze it into the electric pencil sharpener. So, and you tell kids with the paste for paper mache, I mean, the places it ends up, I don't know. I get really nervous mixing with middle school epoxy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be like a separate thing, maybe like a little club or
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is so New England right here.
That house is actually part of the Underground Railroad.
Get out, really?
Yeah, it's in Newburyport.
Awesome. Wow. No
Yeah,
kidding.
Frederick Douglass stopped by there. It's kind of cool. It's my friend's father's home.
A lot
Just
of history on this whole East Coast thing.
yeah.
Ooh, look at that. That's something different. We didn't see that.
Yeah, for a hot minute I messed around with doing geode type of stuff.
You're gonna do this except this size of it, like huge.
Geodes?
No, but you're gonna do abstract but huge.
Yeah. It's an abstraction from the something real.
You're a serious artist when you got the packing confetti to match the thing. Okay, all right, this is too far. You've gone too far. No, this is awesome. I'm like, wow, all right. You got blue paper and white paper to go with. That's very nice. Awesome. I don't think of these things.
This is my first everything is here. These are all like my first pieces I've made.
Yeah. Yeah, the cape's kind of lends itself to this stuff. Like the cape is like so like just, I mean, it's like preserved. This little thing. It's beautiful out there. I've been to Turo.
Hello.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a spot.
I
It's
get
weird. It's weird because it's like there's areas that you're not allowed to have any new development. So you could like walk in the woods or walk, and then all of a sudden you're at the beach, and it's just like you're just like, wow, there's nobody here. It's like preserved. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the National Seashore.
Mm-hmm.
Now is that poured on a piece of wood or is that poured inside a mold?
That is a cutout of Massachusetts, so it's a wood. I think it's like birch.
So you get those cutouts from somewhere?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Nice.
You gotta get yourself a laser cutter.
I know. I need the space. Yeah, I'd love that.
Oh, have the school buy it for you, and then you can use theirs.
Yeah, a little unethical, but
We're still recording. Shoot. No one makes it this far
Well,
anyway.
Well, you practice, get a machine for the shop, and then you see if you like it, you know?
Yeah.
And you teach the kids stuff, you teach yourself stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of like the cool thing about the school is you can try out stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
I
Cool.
gotta say though, being a working artist, I feel like it makes you believe, like, whenever a kid messes up, I mean, you kind of think this anyway, but like, nope, we're gonna find a way. If I can fix epoxy, we can fix your little paper mache thing.
funny.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, that's very cool that you still teach, and then also you do this. So I think you're probably a big inspiration for all the kids. That's great what you do, and I think that I'm glad you did this podcast because you're kind of like a shop teacher, and I think we probably have more artists on here. It's very cool. Good stuff you're doing.
Thanks.
Excellent
Well,
work.
thank you for inviting me. This was awesome. It's nice to meet other teachers too. Like, it's just
Totally.
who's kind of in the same realm. So
Yeah, like I don't. That was actually the reason we created the shop class podcast, because when you're a shop teacher, you sort of work alone. It's crazy. You can't do that. It's not fun like that, and you need more ideas. I learned so much about the building science world. I didn't understand about energy audits and all kinds of stuff, and then you get to meet all these great people, and everyone's like doing something. You know, they don't just teach. Teaching is just you're helping people out during the day. I always tell people teaching is like well-paid volunteer work. You know, you're kind of like helping people during the day, but your whole thing is that you're just learning with the kids, and then you like do stuff.
yeah.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah, no, but they're huge bucket fillers though. They say some amazing stuff. And kind of like what you said about your class during COVID, you don't ever really know how much you affect a child or a student. So knowing that in those small moments, because they're not always going to share, is kind of a cool thing.
Totally. Yeah. It's I get reminded, luckily, I'm sure alumni come see you.
Yeah, sometimes.
Isn't that great? You're just
Yeah.
like, wow, oh my God. That's awesome. All right, well, cool. This is great. Thanks for doing this. And we're going to end the recording. Shop Class Podcast. This will be in chapters, which I said in the beginning. All right, cool. We'll end it here, and then we'll kind of. All right, thanks a lot. Shop Class Podcast. Brittney Carbone. Check her out. Instagram.